It's Wednesday, March 7th, 2012, and it's just after 4 p.m. here, Central Standard Time, so just after U.S. close. It's been a while since I put up a video, but I figured I might get back into it here. So I didn't trade anything today. I had some trades on, some positions, you can see that, but nothing new. And so I don't have too much prepared, just we'll just kind of go over what I have on, and then I'll do some real-time analysis and see, what I think the S&P is going to do in the near future here. So, anyways, Euro, it's been interesting. Let's just start off. Let's just clean this up. And so, starting off with the daily chart, it's been a fun ride for the most part. Just sort of, this correction. I think lasted a lot longer than people were expecting, and you can see that it went. Let's see. So let's just draw some trend lines and then talk about it. So some people were looking at this level through here as a retest. You can see we tagged it there, fell off, pushed through that up to I'd say the next area of resistance. And then from there we've had this fairly decent fall. Now I think it's the fundamentals sure point to the downside, but it's important to remember that price is everything is factored into price. There's no need to look beyond that, in my opinion. Unless you can beat the market, but the market's job is to fill orders, and you have buyers, sellers come in, and what you see on the chart is representative of their beliefs and what they think something is worth. To me, that's enough really to trade and to jump on with those orders and see if you can catch it for a ride. Anyways, we had this trend line coming through. You can see, this trend line break is nothing new. We've seen it before. Before the trend line was a lot steeper. All right, you can see that here. And we had this break. We had some continuation to the downside here, and then you can see this thing caught a bit and pushed right on through. So just because we've broken here, I don't think it's time to really load the boat on the short side. It makes for a great trade regardless. You can see I'm short here, taking a little bit of heat on the trade at the moment, but I have I like the pattern. So the first thing we want to do is we want to specify where's support, where's resistance, where's supply, where's demand. And we've seen supply through here. Once we broke through that, we saw demand multiple times. All right, so that's going to be a key level for us. And just so again, important to remember these areas are a zone. It's not going to be to the point the markets aren't perfect. This is just a zone where we've seen buyers step in before, and odds are if price does come down here, most likely we'll see them step in again. Now the other thing to point out here is that this is the roughly the 130 mark for the euro. So psychological level, we've seen it hold before. That means we need to respect it when it does come down here again, or rather if it comes down here again. So from what we're seeing these series of higher swing highs, higher swing lows. That concept is still intact until price can breach this level right here. At that point, we can officially say we had a lower swing low. Otherwise, this is still an uptrend, and it's important to remember that even though we have a trend line break, trend line breaks, they show a slowdown momentum, not necessarily a change in sentiment or a reversal. All right. So simply, this tells us that yes, the rate of ascent is slowing. And in fact, we should still maintain a overall bullish stance until price can really show us that it wants to accept levels below 130. All right, but in the near term, I am more of a near-term trader. I do think this represents a good shorting opportunity, simply because you can see there was some buying pressure that formed off this level. As that level failed, just think about it. If you're a buyer and you come in here and you buy 10 million face on the euro, expecting prices to continue on up, right? And then you see prices roll over. Well, what are you going to do? Most likely you're going to puke your position, unless you're crazy, or you have some other plan in terms of risk management. But the fact of the matter is, what you thought was going to happen didn't happen. Obviously, we're now trading below that level. So this what you thought was the inexpensive level is obviously not. Anyways, the point is that anybody who was in here was probably forced to puke their position, and because of that, I would imagine that the market will move down to the next level, which it's previously shown us it finds good value at, and that's roughly 130. Okay, so let's move down to the 4-hour chart, and enough theory. Let's go to some practical concepts here. All right, this is our zone of interest. This is the 130 mark. Or 130 half mark. 130 is a little bit lower than that, but you can see that as we broke down on the hourly chart, we broke below the trend line that we just talked about. We broke below this. We broke below this level of consolidation. Right, you can see we're still below that. Went in and took a short trade, put a stop above the breakout level, and I was looking for continuation here. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Nothing to overthink really. Once the pattern presents itself, it's not time to think, it's time to act. So at this point, we're sitting in this trade. Now this could come up and take us out. That's perfectly fine, but I think that over a long enough period of time, if I continue to take this trade, I have an edge. And so that's also visible right here. You can see that price actually formed a very similar pattern here. Price broke to the downside, never really looked back, and came to the next area of support, which was right here. Again, same concept, breakdown. Let's see how far it goes. Okay, so that's the euro trade. In terms of what else I'm looking at, Friday is the weekly option expiration. Looking for prices, say between maybe 134 and 130. So we'll see how that pans out. Things are sort of slowing down, things are reversing here. So today, close of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 2 more days. We'll see how this one comes up. All right. Enough of the euro. Let's talk briefly about what I'm looking at other currencies, and then we can jump over to the S&Ps. Dollar CAD, we had a very nice breakdown here. As price pushes up to recover that, if we can close above this level right here, I'd gladly get long on the breakout there and look for these guys to be in a lot of pain, and for them to give up their positions. Cable, same concept really. Cable Aussie dollar, or Cable Aussie euro rather. Dollar strength, you're seeing it across the board. Price broke through the area of support, broke the trend line, and there is near-term momentum to the downside. I do think that this level through here was at 156.5 is the next demand area on cable. And Aussie is being exceptionally weak here. You can see that it's trading below this structure, and everybody who got in here is now in a losing position, and this is a topping pattern. I think this is the next level of support. Probably not the best one. It's not too bad actually. If you scroll back somewhere in this area, and then if we break that, then we have this level down here. And so again, I think we have some lower prices in store. The only thing that's really kind of catching here is you can see we have this downward trend line coming through here. I don't, in my experience, I haven't seen these work too well. So we'll have to see. But if price, can show us a significant upward thrust here above the near term structure, then I do think we have a fighting shot to move on up. Otherwise, there's plenty of downside waiting for us, plenty of overhead resistance as well, supply up here. What else? We have Euro Sterling, and this is an interesting one. Price came up to area of resistance. We just sort of collapsed. Um, I wouldn't be surprised to see price come back up to this level and retest there, but I don't have too much experience trading this one, and this is one I'm sort of willing to stand aside and watch. But this might be a long entry right here, stop below this level, and a target up here. All right, moving on to the U.S. markets. Let's get our charts up. Let's look at commodities real quick, and I know this video is going to be quite long, but I haven't done one in a while, and so I figured I should just go through everything and get back up to speed. Anyways, looking at gold, I was interested in purchasing gold right here as we well, you don't know actually because I haven't said anything, so I'm going to go through and walk you through it. So if we drop in this level through here, we had some sort of a wedge pattern. You can see price very cleanly broke through that to the upside, and odds are when that happens, looking for some sort of continuation. All right, so we have this massive uptrend. We have some consolidation here for a long time, and we have a clean breakout. After the breakout, we saw some minor consolidation. That was good bullish action, and then on the daily we had this upswing right here. That was a trade I was interested in, but as you can see, things have since reversed. Right, this was the level I was watching. Price actually shot down, and on a closing basis, we closed below support. So pretty much everybody who was long or got long through here was forced to give up their position. We had a minor pullback, and you can see we have continuation now. I think the next level is right here, roughly 1650. Gold definitely looks to be in trouble in the near term. And again, remember our demand zones are down here at roughly 1580, 1575, somewhere in there. So if we did drop, it's very possible that we couldn't be knocking on this level again. And at this point, this trend line would get readjusted to this level up here. Now, take note of this. If we do break this level, we have sort of a double top formation up here, right? So that's going to be interesting looking forward. I don't think that we'll get too far below this level, but then again, I didn't think we were going to collapse like this, and so it's important to keep an open mind here. Let's look at silver. I believe it's SI, yep. And similar price action, but you can see that not quite as strong on this breakout here. You can see we had a little fake out, if anything, and this makes for a very clean short signal actually on the weekly there. So again, if price can get below these levels to here, I think it's off to the races to the downside, and maybe 25 or 26 perhaps would not be too out of reach. One thing I want to point out here is you can see momentum, right? When you use time bars, you can see momentum in these candles. You can see momentum to the upside was fairly consistent, but to the downside it was uncontrolled, right? Again, we saw a run up here and then just uncontrolled selling, and so that tells me, just from looking at the previous price action, that although we are moving on up slowly, the sellers seem to be in control, and because of that, I would not want to be long here, unless of course we can change sentiment. But in the near term, there's really no reason to buy until we see something from a price perspective where someone else is stepping in to buy, and that gives us a low risk opportunity to jump along with them. I don't know, it's I guess I could relate it to like somebody jumping off a cliff. You don't want to do it alone, you want to do it with somebody, and obviously assuming you have a parachute with you, but you want to see them go first, and you want to see the bear parachute works, or bungee jumping, whatever it is, and then you'll give it a go. Otherwise, you'd be crazy to go first, right? Same concept. All right, let's look at the S&Ps. So this, I mean, this is not, you know, uncommon, right? Price came up to the high here. This is the high. It's the highest high we've had in a long time, and you know, buyers couldn't quite find it in themselves to push price higher just yet, right? Because we don't know. You know, although we have, you know, this big ugly, you know, red candle, which is not very big at all, to be honest with you. Um, the trend is still very cleanly to the upside, and we have levels of support just below us here. So let's move this to a daily chart. In fact, let's use this over here. The chart's a little bit cleaner, and it's already marked up for us. Oops. All right. So this level of support, you know, and this is, you know, these levels have been drawn in. I haven't been screwing around with these or anything like that. I haven't looked at the S&P in a long time, actually. So it's interesting. We came right down to the low of this bar was 1340.03, and this line was already drawn in here, and this line is at 1339.96. So you can see the accuracy there is surprising at times. Yeah, some people might say, you know, if you put 60 million lines out there, it's going to hit one of them, but there's not 60 million lines out here. There's one, you know, and we pushed right into it. So, let's see. So we're seeing some buying in the near term. I think the market really has to prove itself here. If we can get below this level, I think 1330 is in the cards. Obviously, we have a trend line coming down 1320. So any sort of price action, you know, really until we close below 1300. I wouldn't completely shut out the bull side of things, right? And that's partially because you can see we've had these pullbacks in the past, and we've pulled back quite a bit only to come back and break through. So, you know, just because we have a little drop here, yeah, it does offer a low risk entry to get short, you know, if in fact price does push up back into this level. But it's important that, you know, if you are getting short, be nimble. You know, targets at 1340 would be fine. Targets at 1320 would be okay. But anything, you know, if you're expecting price to go to zero, or, you know, some crazy people out there who think the markets are, you know, are going to shit, and that's fine. You know, they can have an opinion, but in terms of probability of that happening, it's like playing a lottery ticket where your odds are 1 in, you know, I don't know, 1 in a billion, and trying to shoot for the stars. It's just it's not the nature of the business. If you want to be successful, you stay nimble, and you know, you build wealth over time. So that's the S&P for us. You know, really no stocks on my radar really. Goldman Sachs is something that I traded the other day. Kind of got burned on that. You can see we had a nice little breakout here. We had a pullback, and I went and entered long on here, put a stop below the structure on a 60-minute. So, you know, again, look at this real quick. You can see what I was trading, the breakout, right? Nice clean breakout. The next level of resistance is this green line up here. Now, if we look at the 60-minute chart, we can look at the actual structure I traded, and that was right here. As price pulled back to this, you know, zone, some people might say, oh, you didn't tag your line. Well, again, this is a zone, right? You can see we had some price action even starting up here, right? So if we mark this as a zone, you can see price did pull back in there, and we had a nice reversal and some bullish momentum above the near-term structure. So for me, that's a great entry signal. I got long on there, and I put a stop below the low. You can see we actually gapped lower. So, you know, if I was risking 1 R on here, you can see that the risk was actually 2, and you know, that's just the cost of doing business. That's why you manage your risk, and you know, if shit hits the fan, then you still live to trade another day. So I had a very small position on here. It wasn't a problem. You know, it sucked to see it gap, but it really wasn't a deal breaker by any means. That was a quick in and out trade, unfortunately. It would have been nice if it did run, but, you know, again, it's good to be out, because after we gapped, we ran down another 3 points. So if you if you let your ego get in the way and you don't manage your risk, this can come back to bite you pretty bad. Apple is a big one. Everyone looks at Apple, and let's see what Apple's up to. So Apple's obviously always trading at all-time highs, and I don't know. This price action is not something I'm familiar with. Usually when I trade stocks, they're not shooting straight up, and it's tough to step in and buy here because you never know when these things are going to roll. And you want a good example of that? Look at something like Citigroup, right? Any of these big tech stocks, or any financials, any tech stocks. Now Citigroup never really traded at 525. They do a lot of reverse splits, like right here. Here's one. But the concept is the same. Price was shooting up, and then things went bad, and they went bad really fast. So that's something to keep in mind. There's plenty of other opportunities. You don't have to chase, unless if you have a setup, then go for it by all means. But there's really no use in just jumping in blindly and trying to make something out of nothing. Okay, what other stocks do I watch? Walmart, I guess we can take a quick peek at. Walmart has since pulled back after the breakout. This monthly candle isn't too sharp, so not the best. But again, it is a pullback, and it could potentially be a low-risk trade. The other one that I was watching was Lennar. Home builders here, you can see it's picking back up. Unfortunately, I was stopped out here, and I would have looked to re-enter if 21.5 came into play. Unfortunately, it didn't, and again, this could very well run to the moon, and that would be a pretty crappy feeling. But again, when the markets are uncertain, you really don't know what to expect, and so my target was roughly 27.5 up here. Important thing to note here. I was watching TV the other day, or CNBC, and it seemed like Warren Buffett is bullish on home builders. So maybe some fundamentals, or some insider information there for you, but it is definitely represented in the price as well. You can see prices now above this consolidation level, and so that indicates that somebody's willing to buy and bid this thing higher than what it is at now. And I would say that's pretty much it in terms of the the markets, sort of where we stand. The only other thing that I want to look at real quick is crude oil. So I'll go ahead and pull that up as well. And crude oil has been interesting, because again, this is a very nice structure. This is something that I will be looking to trade if we do pull back to this 103.5 mark, right, somewhere in there. If we pull back, we get a nice little bullish signal. From the price action that I'm seeing, I think crude oil is headed higher, and I'll be on it for the ride. Couple levels of support. One the horizontal, second one's a trend line, and then the third confirmation will be the price action, which we haven't seen exactly just yet. Price is still a little bit choppy, so we'll give it a little bit more time. So anyways, that pretty much sums everything up. It's a long video, but hopefully it's good insight, and I'll try and be more frequent on these, but things get busy, and sometimes it's hard to post a video frequently. Anyways, thanks for watching. Good luck out there, and stay safe in the markets.